today I'm here with you to tell you a little bit about the story, about what is happening, let's say, at the European level, and what is the European Joint Programme on Rare Diseases, as well as the follow-up, I would say, stage or program, which is the ERDERA partnership. So it's really to show you how things are being built since actually about 20 years, and how together we are also trying to support the research in the rare disease field for the benefit of patients. So very quick introduction, why actually we have created the European Joint Programme on Rare Diseases. It's because of the fact that so the EJPRD started in 2019, and at that time there were already quite a lot of efforts that were made by the member states, by the European Commission, and by the different stakeholders to try to strengthen the research in the rare disease field. So actually since 2006, we had already this kind of multinational programs for funding of multinational research projects, but also we had a lot of different infrastructures that progressed over the years. So some specific ones dedicated to rare diseases like Orphanet, or the programs like RD Connect or SolveRD, but also the other ones that are not necessarily dedicated to rare diseases, but very useful for the rare diseases community, like ECRIN, for example, that fosters the multinational clinical trials, EATRIS, that is dedicated to translational research, OBBMRI, that is dedicated to biobanking. At the European level, as you may know, the patients' needs are very much supported by EURORDES, that is an umbrella organization and helps us also to better connect with patients at the different levels. But we also have a strategy that let's say the overall strategy thinking about the rare diseases. So at the international level, and the creation of the International Rare Disease Research Consortium in 2011. And finally, as many of you probably know, that in 2017, we had also the creation of the European Reference Networks, that even though their primary goal was healthcare, they are also very much research intensive. So the idea was how to bring all those different elements in the best way together under, let's say, one single program for the benefit of rare diseases patients, and to accelerate the rare diseases research. And so this is how the European Joint Programme on Rare Diseases was created. So it's a program that of which really the objective was to integrate, on one hand, the existing infrastructures, but also training, funding programs, and different tools, to expand them and to develop new ones essential for the rare diseases community. So it is easy to use for the researchers, and obviously it produces the benefit for the patients. So EJPRD is organized according to five different blocks. Obviously, we have the coordination and different transversal activities, including, for example, all the ethical, legal, and aspects. But the rest of the program is divided into 4 different blocks with different focuses. So the research funding. So this is well, some of of you who know the PRODIN project, you know how it functions, because this is where the joint transnational calls are being located. But we also have built what we call the virtual platform of data, tools, and resources, where the objective is really to, on one hand, make the resources available to the research community or to the rare diseases community, but also to interconnect them to make sure that the different data can be reusable. We have a big part that is dedicated to the capacity building and empowerment, and this encompasses the training programs, including the trainings for patients, but also different, let's say, scientific training. And the last part is more focused on the acceleration of the translation of research results and the clinical studies. So in numbers, how the EJPRD looks in numbers? So we are talking here about the program that was co-financed, or that is co-financed by the European Commission for about half of the program. So it's about 55 million euros that the Commission brings in. The rest is being brought by the participating countries and organizations. This program encompasses 35 different countries, so it includes, of course, the majority of the European countries, but also associated ones, as well as the countries, non-European countries like Canada. And until recently, UK, that now came back to the status of the associated, and altogether it encompasses 136 institutions. And our objective was really to have the representation of all the stakeholders. So we have the representation from the 24 European reference networks, but also different research institutes, the infrastructures that I was mentioning, but also the charities, foundations, and ERDERA. The objective really behind EJPRD was to create a single entry point and a solution for all. So to organize the different activities in a way that they can respond to the needs of the researchers, clinicians, patients, but also policymakers and funders, and to also generate international partnerships. But in practice, the things were organized, so the four big blocks that I mentioned were really organized into a kind of a cycle where different instruments, services, and support are organized in a way that they can support research at the different stages. So, and I'm going to speak a little bit about this, how does it work, because you are going to see that this kind of a scheme is also further enhanced in the ERDERA partnership. So I think it's important to understand actually what we are offering. So at the level of the funding, obviously, and this was also mentioned by Michaela, is that for the many of rare diseases, and especially the ultra-rare diseases, actually there is a little networking that is going on, and often actually there is no research and there is no connection between the patients with rare diseases and families, but also and the different specialists, clinicians, researchers, and other stakeholders. So we have created a dedicated scheme, which is called the Networking Support Scheme, which does not finance research, but actually supports the networking, which means that the different groups can come together and submit a submission for submit a proposal for a networking event that can help to bring the different stakeholders together, discuss the ideas, share the knowledge, and even if this is what is the objective, to start building the research project together. We hope that this kind of networking support then can help, for example, in the creation of the multinational consortia that can apply to our multinational funding opportunities. At the level of the creation of the project, the different stakeholders can benefit from the different tools that EJPRD is offering. I already mentioned the virtual platform of data tools and resources that is now live, but also other type of resources that are related with the interpretation, for example, of data, or even the data verification, which meaning that helping to make the data not only accessible, but also interoperable and reusable to develop the research. All over the cycle, obviously, we offer different trainings. So it can be trainings and education for patients, for researchers, but also we offered a dedicated supporting mentoring services. And what this means in practice is that the projects that apply to our calls and go to the second stage have the possibility to profit for free for a dedicated mentoring from the experts that are not necessarily always at hand for the research groups, like, for example, the regulatory experts or business experts, the specific point of view of statisticians, or the specific point of view also of the business developers. And while the project, of course, develops, we also have a dedicated support, for example, linked also with the mentoring to help you find the follow-on funding, or, for example, to develop your clinical studies. So as you can see here, all this is really organized into a cycle, so that every stage of from the idea till the end of the development of the project can be supported. So just a few words, because as I mentioned, EJPRD is actually coming to its end. So it is going to finish in August 2020 of this year, and the ERDERA partnership is going to come immediately afterwards. But just to show you a little bit of the results of this 5.5 years program. So we have invested during those 5 years more than 100 million euros into 77 different research projects, bringing together more than 530 research teams. We also financed 69 networking events that covered 43 different topics, 35 different countries, and this also included what we call the underrepresented countries, where, for example, it's even more difficult to get the knowledge and connect. And currently, about 80% of the different research projects that are being financed are also involved patients or patient organizations as partners in those projects. As I mentioned, we developed the mentoring program, but this mentoring program is also supported by other tools, like, for example, Innovation Management Toolbox that was also developed, as well as the Clinical Trial Toolbox Toolkit. We have trained more than 10,000 different stakeholders because we have different, as I mentioned, different trainings. So trainings on data management and quality, dedicated year-end workshops, but also fellowships. But we also developed 2 massive online courses on the diagnosis and translational research, and another one is just coming and will be launched now. So this allowed actually to really encompass the rare disease or community or the people interested in rare diseases, really with more than going really beyond Europe and at international scale. I mentioned that we developed the virtual platform of data tools and resources. Currently, it encompasses 22 resources, when what we call a resource is, for example, the whole orphanet is a resource. So these are, for example, the catalog. So it means that those resources can be quite complex. And we, in terms of the coordination, we've managed to put a real, let's say, agile governance and strategy, and also established a dedicated central help desk that encompasses more than 450 experts that can help you at any time in case if you come to us. So these are, of course, a lot of, I would say, nice successes, but the idea was actually what are the remaining needs and what is now. And of course, this can be, we can discuss about it a lot, but these are really just, again, a very high level and overarching, let's say, needs that still remain, and especially the fact that for the 95% of rare diseases, there is not only not any effective treatment, but actually they are quite a lot disregarded in terms of research. In relation to the diagnosis, more than 50% of patients also still remained undiagnosed, and the time to diagnosis is still definitely too long. And there is a high level impact on the daily life of people living with rare diseases. So starting, let's say, from the EJPRD, but again, also other projects and programs that were ongoing, we decided to create, again, with, of course, with the support of the European Commission, the ERDERA, which is the European Rare Diseases Research Alliance. And the ERDERA program is going to run for 10 years and has 3 main goals that are very much aligned with the goals of the International Rare Diseases Research Consortium. The first one being to contribute to the shortening of the time of the diagnosis to 6 months of coming to medical attention, and to making also sure that every undiagnosed patient is also integrated in the research pipeline. The second one of contributing to the development of the new effective therapies for the rare disease patients and accelerating their approval in EU and beyond. And the third one is linked with a better understanding actually of the impact of rare diseases on patients, families, and society. So in relation to those 3 main goals, again, we have expanded the consortium and we have expanded the activities. So we are encompassing now 36 countries, more than 170 organizations, including, again, the rare diseases funders, what we call the research performing organizations, patient organizations, infrastructures, but also private for-profit partners, and that encompasses industry and small and medium enterprises. And so how ERDERA is actually built. So the idea was to, on one hand, again, take what we have already tried in EJPRD, and if we can say that at the level of the EJPRD, we've been building things in the ERDERA, we are going to implement this at the full speed. But then also the idea was, of course, to reinforce the part that require that should help in the responding of the three overarching goals. So as you can see here in this green block, we have the remaining, we've maintained the joint transnational calls for collaborative projects on rare diseases. We have also the networking support scheme to share knowledge that remains, but we are also going to launch the calls for clinical trials. And for that, there is a dedicated work package to prepare those. We have integrated all the different supporting services into a kind of a, let's say, central part where we have a data service hub that supports, let's say, all the data needs coming from the different research projects that will be financed, but also from the internally happening research, and I'm going to speak about this in a second. We have obviously the expertise service hub that encompasses the mentoring, but also the regulatory aspects. We have the education and training. And then we have expanded it to this specific supported services to a new part, which is what we call the acceleration hub, and where we decided to locate a joint public-private, let's say, adventure and initiative dedicated more specifically to advanced therapeutic medicinal product and development of the different technologies to make sure that those technologies can be standardized and regulatory also acceptable to, in a way, offer them afterwards to the rare diseases community to accelerate the development of this type of products at European and international scale. What is new in ERDERA, beside this public-private collaboration that we hope also is going to expand to the different parts of the ERDERA, is first of all what we call the clinical research network. And here we call it an in-house research because of the fact that I think that we could call it like a kind of a demonstrator, or a really very big demonstrator, of which our main goal is to accelerate the diagnosis, but also the clinical trial readiness of rare diseases and the development of the ATMPs, but also of few approaches. So here we have three big parts. The first one focusing on the acceleration of the diagnosis, and here we have integrated the pipeline that for the undiagnosed diseases that has been developed previously by the SOLVE-RD project. But this pipeline is going to be expanded to new countries, but also to make sure that actually the capacities that were developed and the methodologies that were developed to accelerate the diagnosis of patients can be also now implemented at different national levels to make sure that every country has the capacity to diagnose rare diseases patients faster. We have this what we call the outcome research that encompasses the specific research on demonstrating the use of real-world data, but also the better definition of patient-centered outcome measures and the use of electronic health records from the hospitals for the benefit of the rare disease research and the clinical trial readiness. And the third part is connected also with the acceleration hub, especially when it comes to the demonstrators of the ATMPs. But there is also a dedicated part that is going to develop an academic setting for the approaches for the ultra rare diseases where you only have very few patients, and that require the development of the specific treatments in the academic settings. All that is supported by what we call the international capacity alignment. And this is the part where actually, again, we are putting a dedicated funds to create what we call the national mirror group. So it means that in every country that participates in ERDERA, there will be a national mirror group that is going to be financially supported to bring on board at the national level patients, researchers, the policymakers to make sure that on one hand, we can better translate the needs from the different countries into what is happening at the European and international scale, but that on the other hand, we can faster translate the results of what is being developed at the European level to the national settings. There is also a specific focus on the underrepresented countries, but also at the global scale with a connection to the International Rare Diseases Research Consortium. In terms of budget, ERDERA program is the budget of the program is evaluated at about 380 million euros, out of which, as you can see, the majority, almost 250 million, is going to financing of research, and then to the support of different, let's say, different services, but also this in-house research of the clinical research network. Obviously, it is expected that this program is not going to operate in an isolation. So already EJPRD was connected, but ERDERA will be also connected to other programs that are not necessarily either dedicated or not dedicated to rare diseases, but where there is a clear added value for the rare diseases community, but where we can also demonstrate that what is happening or being done by the rare diseases research can be implemented also in can be useful for other communities and diseases and patients. And so with that, I would like to thank you very much, and we'll be happy to take any questions.